Welcome back to another YouTube video, you beautiful hosers, and today, as you read the title, I'm just going to jump right into it. So, instead of me going and wasting 10 minutes of both of our times with a heavily edited krypt video, because apparently a lot of people don't understand a lot of things about Mortal Kombat, and they're creating controversies that aren't actually there, and they're wondering why Ed Boon's flying off the rails. So, long story short, there is microtransactions in Mortal Kombat 11. They're purely cosmetic. Some of them are brutalities, others are easy fatality coins. Really something that doesn't provide an online advantage in any way, shape, or form. Because almost all the moves that you can get in there are either locked in Towers of Time or in the krypt, and you can't actually buy those items because they are strictly locked to those areas. But some people are somehow misunderstanding that you can't buy everything in the game, so they're coming up with numbers like $6,000 and you can buy everything in the game, which is completely not true. Number one, DLC characters have not dropped. Number two, certain things are locked in the game that you cannot touch without actually having to play the game. Number three, there are shortcuts to buy specific characters. For one example, if you didn't go and pre-order to get Shao Kahn, and when they stop printing out the codes for Shao Kahn, you're going to have to pay, like, I think it's $5 American, $7 Canadian for Shao Kahn. And also, if you don't like playing the story mode, you just like playing fighting games online and just despise anything story-wise, they allow you to purchase Frost so that you can actually have that character. Now, as much as they're trying to please everybody, there's a lot of people that are pissed about it. Now, my personal thoughts on microtransactions is if the game's good enough and it sells really well, you don't really need it. However, there is stuff like Grand Theft Auto, which a lot of people aren't pointing out, which is actually where a lot of the start of this is actually coming from, other than mobile games. Now, the reason why I'm saying Grand Theft Auto and then comparing it to Mortal Kombat is there are two complete opposites on the spectrum. Grand Theft Auto, you can spend it on money, which can allow you to buy certain weapons that you otherwise couldn't normally purchase through these means. For example, if you're high enough levels, some of the guns are rather expensive, but if you haven't been doing a whole lot of missions, it's kind of hard to get to that spot to have enough money for these extra couple of weapons. Like, I believe there's a sniper rifle that was around like level 50 or something like that. For example, that stuff that can easily be bought, that can provide an in-game advantage, because not everybody who's starting the game is going to have a sniper rifle. So you're going to obliterate everyone on the server who literally just got the game. Mortal Kombat, on the other hand, let's say you played the game for, let's say, like 48 hours, you amassed enough source crystals without buying any microtransactions to get a skin. You're not getting advantage, you're just getting a newer coloration of a character that really doesn't help boost the character's stats in any way, shape, or form. There are augments you can use. However, like the dev team explained, the augments cannot be used online. They are strictly used for offline modes. So that really doesn't help you. Now, if you want to go back even further with NRS and go all the way back to Injustice 2, it had two things people didn't like. Source crystals that were pointless, and then actually, I think I was calling the Mortal Kombat one source crystals. My bad. And then they had loot boxes. Nobody liked the loot boxes. They got rid of that. Instead, we got krypt chests, which they explained are handcrafted. And every character that anyone has going throughout the krypt will always receive the same stuff. It's not randomly generated, it's all handcrafted, but a lot of it is different for other players, unless it is a special chest. Special chests always remain static, they never move. So, it really baffles me that people didn't actually read into a lot of this stuff and they're just assuming they knew everything. I watched Dreamcast Guy's video, and yes, microtransactions do suck in games, but this is one of the cases where it's done correctly, and I'm going to literally beat a dead horse, but I'm going to even beat on Overwatch for that one. Loot boxes compared to microtransactions. This one is a paid loot box, this one is not. NRS did do them in the past. A lot of people said they hated them. They dropped them. And instead we got chests that are handcrafted and not randomly generated. Overwatch, on the other hand, you can spend real-world money to get real-world cosmetics, but a lot of people praise that game, but they hate NRS for what they're doing right now, and they're saying, oh, it's overly monetized. Nobody had a problem with Overwatch doing that 2.5 years ago, so, what's the problem there? And then you have Fortnite, who's literally a free-to-play game that is cosmetic only, provides no in-game advantage, but that's fine compared to this. Once again, shooting game and team player game compared to a fighting game. I'm just really confused. And then you have people saying, oh, well, the season's pass is too expensive. Have you seen the season pass price for Dead or Alive 6? That is the most absurd thing that I have seen thus far since the game came out. Over $100, all you're getting is skins. It's not the first time they've done this, but that's a hella lot more expensive than this one here. This one here, at least with the season pass, you know exactly what you're getting into. This one over here, that's only season 1. They're probably doing 4 more seasons, so that's going to be like 120 bucks Canadian. Times that by 4, that's 480 bucks. So, apples to oranges? Now, my personal stance on microtransactions, do I like them in games? No, but I do understand certain places that they go and put their games on, they get screwed over royally, like the entire Steam thing. We know anyone who puts a game on there hardly receives anything because Valve themselves takes a large chunk. Then you have the Epic Game Store, which a lot of people are against because of a lot of different controversies that have popped up over the last couple of months. And, well, it hasn't exactly looked all that great for them. And then you have Blizzard, which everybody seems to forget has their own launcher for their own games, and a couple of others like Destiny 2, as well as Call of Duty. Because apparently everybody likes to forget the little middleman like that, and there is plenty of other game launchers out there that have other people's games as well. However, a lot of people are looking at one and saying, oh, well, it's a good thing, and then looking at the other and saying it's a bad thing, and then there's other people who just look at it and say, well, microtransactions are bad altogether. Although I don't disagree with that statement, I will say there is a lot of shady business tactics between a lot of bigger companies, so it's hard to justify or point out who's right, who's wrong, and that sort of way. But if you're going to make a video and say we don't hate you, and then continue to bash the guy for a decision that is not entirely just his or the company's, that kind of sets the bar from here to setting it rather low, and then you wonder why people are defending NRS and getting pissed off with you in the same process. It's a little strange. Also, in the krypt, you can't spend real-world currency. You have to grind the living piss out of this game to get hearts. Through certain things, hearts will get you 1 heart per fatality. I think the most that I've seen is 5 hearts per tower. Using scorpion spears on bodies in the krypt awards you 1. And then you have soul fragments, which I'm not entirely sure how they're all collected. I know that you can get them through Towers of Time, and there's certain things in the crypt that you can break to get them. I don't remember which ones they were. And then you have the coins. The coins you can get anywhere from 5 to 7 from breaking vases or skeletons or other weird stuff that they put in there, because apparently who needs a bird fountain if you're Shang Tsung? So you can break those and statues, and they give you 5, 7, or I've even seen them give you 1 and 3 at times, all the way up to 15. However, you have to grind the holy hell out of this game. And yes, there is microtransactions, but it's not really giving you an incentive to go and buy them. These crystals that you can pay real world money for, they award you for free. So essentially, throughout the long grind that you're going to be playing the game for, you can still get this stuff for free, and a lot of people don't understand that. Oh, well, it's predatory. That's kind of the reason why kids should not be playing a Mortal Kombat game. I know my parents freaked the hell out when I was playing Mortal Kombat 2 in our theater. It was the best 50 cents that I ever used. Didn't even get past the first couple of fights, because I was like 8 at the time and didn't understand the concept of fighting games. So, if you're looking at it like it's predatory, that's kind of why it's labeled M17+. You're not supposed to be a 10-year-old walking into the store and just buying the game. I know my store, whenever you go to buy a game that's 17 up, if they are aware that you are not 17 or older, they will ask you for ID. That's generally when you need a parent. But a lot of people don't understand that, and they're saying, oh, well, it's predatory. Well, first of all, if you know that it's M17+ and your kid's like 5 and has access to your credit card information, something wrong in that entire statement, and I'll let you guys figure that out, because I don't want to dig into it. But little kids shouldn't have access to credit cards. Fortnite has already proven this time and time again. And that's where you go, but you spent money on Fortnite. Yes, I did, and I don't play that game anymore, so fight me. Yep. And we already know that I've spent a lot of money on Mortal Kombat, but I haven't actually spent any money on microtransactions in the game, because I don't believe I have to. It's just like Injustice 2. Grinded the piss out of it, got most of the gear I wanted, and that was fairly simple, and that was it. Not like nowadays, where if you go and put one thing in your game, everybody's got to freak out, so. I can understand where both sides are coming from, but when people are spreading misinformation, like the one article that I read that said it costs $6,000 to unlock the story mode, like, that's the kind of stuff that makes people fly off the rails and get extremely pissed off, which is the reason why Ed Boon complained. So it went from that to $4,000 in cosmetics, which, understandably, a lot of people complained. But here's the thing, though. If you buy the game, yes, you're supporting the developers, but you don't have to buy into the microtransactions. Well, if you buy the game, that means you're okay with it. Not necessarily. You can be a fan and disagree with the business statements, but if you continue to avoid buying the games because of what a parent company is telling them they have to do some sort of, well, essentially, you're just hoping that the company gets shut down so you can reminisce about the older days. I've already said they've been working on ports and had to shut them down, and working on other games had to shut them down repeatedly. Not because they wanted to, but because there was other financial reasoning behind it. Now, they want to support this game for years to come. I'm pretty sure they're going to be doing that on DLC purchases alone, because they're going to make at least a couple million off of those, especially if Spawn comes in, because everybody and their dog's going to be jumping on that train. However, do I think it's going to be fighting game of the year? I mean, right now there's not much competition there, because I believe they're like the third fighting game this year. A lot of people are pissed off with Dead or Alive because there's no fan service and a lot of other crap that went on. And then you have, what was it? It was that Power Rangers Off the Grid. I think that's what it was called, fighting game. People are okay with that, but they're neither for nor against it. I mean, the game does have paid DLC that's coming out, and it's kind of exactly like the mobile one. Kinda, sorta, with better graphics and the fact you can actually use a controller, but, yeah. There's a lot of fighting games that are supposed to come out in the next little while. However, right now, Mortal Kombat's more or less the front runner, but everybody's going to have to pick on them. Because it's as if everybody forgot NRS and Injustice 2 and the complaints that happened there. But the way it's going now is people are just trying to make the people that made the games, the devs themselves, pissed to the point where they won't make any more games. And really, whose fault is that? That's the consumer, because the consumer cannot give constructive criticism. They only go and lash out. Now, if you're going to lash out at the devs, they have every right to ignore what you're saying, because it's not justifiable. However, for example, if I went up to Ed Boon and said, hey, I love your game, but I don't like what you did with microtransactions, and then go on to explain what I would have done to try and make it better. For example, you have these three currencies, why not keep it at that instead of adding a fourth? Because when you add in the fourth, that's going to be creating a lot of questions and raising a lot of concerns that the consumers are going to be complaining about. However, if, for example, you went and took that out completely and just made it so that I could shortcut stuff with soul fragments, for example, because I think that would make more sense for getting costumes and stuff. If they did that on an open planner without using the soul fragments in the crypt specifically, I think that would have been a lot better. That or hearts. For example, make it like 10 hearts per skin or something like that. That way it's not, I have to play 250 matches just to get something in the crypt. As who wants to spend that much time earning one heart? They've already explained that they're going to be giving out a bunch of free goodies because of the kerfuffle with the grind. They're working on that because they received constructive criticism. Now, my example, like I just explained, is if you spread these different currencies out, make it like MK9 where the crypt is strictly coins, and then go over everything else and then just make that your second and third currencies, that would be completely fine. However, a lot of people are not actually going and talking about it. They're just going to bash them. There's no constructive criticism going on. There's nobody actually saying, hey, this is what I like, this is what I dislike. And if you're that person that is doing that, I'm happy that you're doing that and not going on the hate train, telling them how wrong they are, and then pushing their names into the dirt. Because that's not helping anyone, you're just being a jerk at that point in time. It's like nobody understands what goes into making games. How you have to spend hundreds upon thousands of hours into this so that the consumer can play it. And then the consumer just goes and complains and then says, oh, well, it's not the way I would have made it. If it's not the way you would have made it, go get your degree, go get a job in video game design, go design the game, and then come back to me later. And I can be a hypocrite in that because I constantly bash Sonic 06, but Sonic 06 within reason had its budget cut And the company told, release the game now or it's not coming out. So they released an unfinished, unpolished game that was literally a giant turd. However, other people are trying to fix it. There was a lot of good and a lot of bad and a lot of ugly that happened with that game. However, after the information came out, a lot of people could understand what went wrong, so they could live with it. Stuff like this, people just want to complain, they don't want to say anything that's constructive. They just want to be destructive of a company that has pioneered the fighting industry for 25 plus years. Man, who's going to complain about Killer Instinct now? It was literally same crap except for not in the krypt. Oh, but Killer Instinct was a free game. Yeah, that you had next to no characters in if you got the free version because they constantly rotated characters. Well, that's understandable because then the microtransactions actually make sense. No, they still don't. It's still a piss off. It's just like Dead or Alive 6. They released the game and then they went and did a free version shortly after. What the hell was the point of actually having a release date for the game if you're just going to lock all the characters behind a paywall again for the people that didn't have the money to fork out for a $60 game? What the hell? It's stuff like that is business decisions that don't make any sense. Dead or Alive 6 justifiably has made a lot of mistakes. People have gave them constructive criticism, but knowing them, it's probably still up in the air as to what they're going to do. And then there's NRS where they keep trying to please everyone and it's pissing people off even more. There's only so much that game devs can put up with. And it's at the point where this entire MK11 controversy is getting to the point where NetherRealm Studios might just say, you know what, it's not worth making another game because the fans are just going to be disappointed. And they're going to bash us anyway. So if they end up closing shop, who really loses there? The people that are trying to support their families are the ones that are losing there, as well as the consumer. So you're not exactly winning. If anything, you're both losing. And one side's getting hit worse than the other because one has a degree in the other. One does not. One just wants to complain and gripe about a game that the other was doing their profession. Profession, my bad. But it just makes no sense. So, yeah, that's my thoughts and opinions on it. A lot of people are going to be pissed off about that. However, I did get into an angry feud with some other angry guy on Twitter. That was a fun exchange. Because the way that he left it is like I'm a used toy. The way that he left the argument, which wasn't even an argument because there was no solid points made from him other than the fact of microtransactions are predatory. Well, that's the reason why you shouldn't be letting a 5-year-old on a Mortal Kombat game. Just saying. But, yeah, I hope you're having a fantastic 2019, and if you're not, I hope it gets better for you sooner rather than later. Peace out, and I shall see you all in the very next video tomorrow.